I'm Jewish, but last Friday night I was invited to a meeting of the Christian Bible Fellowship on my college campus by a friend of mine who goes, and I wanted to talk a bit about the culture shock that I got there because I know a lot of my audience is Christian. And to preface, people were really nice and respectful, and there was a lot of good and healthy dialogue that happened. I think a lot of the culture shock that I felt can kind of be boiled down to one concept, in that in a Christian community, the main ideas you're looking for are a community who agrees with you and a sense of emotional comfort. Whereas in a Jewish congregation, what you're looking for are people who will hold you accountable to follow a large set of rules, and people who will argue with you until your thoughts are sharp and you can clearly express what you're saying in a way that will be democratically agreeable. I'm just going to give some examples throughout the night and then contrast them with how a Jewish community would have done them so you understand what I mean. There was a prayer portion of the night where the point was for people to speak in English about things that they wanted in their life right then and there, as well as some experiences they'd had during the week. In Judaism, the community would pray in Hebrew. Everybody would pray simultaneously and say the same prayer, and then the prayer would touch on some theme where people are supposed to think in their head about what they want. The way that the rest of the night was structured was that the pastor gave a short slideshow presentation on the idea of spiritual gifts, just that God gives you gifts, and then you're supposed to use them to further the church. We briefly read two biblical passages, one in Romans and one in Corinthians, that were supposed to serve as the doctrinal basis for this idea. Then the majority of the people in the room took a short quiz detailing which spiritual gifts you have and which ones you're good at and which ones you're bad at. And then we broke out into a small group discussion where everybody talked about their spiritual gifts and how they can use them to further their community. In Judaism, we wouldn't have glossed over the passages like that. Instead, we would have argued with the pastor about what the definition of a spiritual gift is in our small group discussions. Another big thing that was kind of difficult for me to swallow was that in Christianity, the standard for communal definitions of theological concepts is much lower. I had a hard time getting any kind of consistent answer about the Holy Spirit. Everybody could agree it was something that is inside every person, that is serving as a comforting force, and something that diverts people away from sin, but there was no definition as to what it actually was, just its function, and people didn't even agree on that. I also learned that there isn't actually a theological standard for what makes somebody born again under Christ, meaning that they're actually Christian, and that was completely whack for me to hear. And really, I think there's just one massive theological difference that spawns all of this. In Christianity, the main defining event of the entire religion is that Jesus was on the cross for people's sins, and God is supposed to forgive you for everything. And in Judaism, the main defining point of the entire religion is that on Mount Sinai, God gave Moses a book full of rules and told people to follow them. In Christianity, God comes down in human form and heals people, so you focus on humans and feeling good. But in Judaism, the very idea that God could take on a form that would be viewable by humans is already sacrilege. In Judaism, the rules and understanding those rules are the closest thing we have to a representation of God, so we stick to them.